Good morning, everyone. Welcome to New York Metro Weather's long-range forecast discussion. It's January 15th, which means we're halfway through meteorological winter, which begins December 1st and ends on March 1st. So although we can get snow before then and after then, as evidenced by the October storm, which a lot of people have forgotten about by now, the meteorological winter is kind of a good time to analyze the beginning and the end of snowy periods. So we're going to take a look at how the pattern has fared so far. This is a 30-day average from the 1st of December to the end of December. So this is really December, it's not counting January. But you can see temperatures above average from central Canada down through the plains and into the east coast of the United States. All the cold air has really, or the negative departures I should say, has resided here on the west coast of the United States. And you can see this pattern has been pretty well established. It was well established for 30 days, and it hasn't changed much since then. We'll take a look really now at the GFS ensemble forecast. And we're starting off here at just 24 hours. So this is the pattern right now, is what we're looking at right now. A few things we want to look at here on the left side. These are the 500 millibars from the middle of the atmosphere anomalies, meaning departure from normal heights. So we can get a good idea as to where the troughs are and the ridges are, and where the cold and warm air is. And this pattern that we're looking at really has been repeated over the past several weeks. You can see there's a cold air shot here over the east coast. It's kind of hard to find New Jersey, but here's Florida, here's the east coast, and here's the northeast United States. So I guess you can keep your eye on here, but also keep a presence of mind here on the whole globe. And this is the polar vortex, which has been situated over Greenland and the Davis Strait for the majority of the winter, a positive North American oscillation. We won't get into too much detail on that, but you generally don't want to see this here if you want a snowy pattern on the east coast. Anyway, more on that later. So here's the transient cold shot you can see here heading out to the Atlantic, and already another ridge building in over the central U.S., rolling eastward towards our area by the beginning of next week. So Tuesday coming up, you can see it moderating temperatures in this polar vortex over central Canada and Greenland. Now it's very important here to look at what's going on to the to our far north and west over the west coast and the Pacific. This is a major ridge building in here over western Alaska and the Aleutians initially, which is a very good sign actually if you want to get the pattern change. But what happens afterwards is very concerning, because look how the ridge actually shifts pretty far to the north and west. So now we have a zonal pattern developing. What's going on here really is this polar vortex is actually shifting to the west. It's retrograding to the west, and we're getting negative height anomalies building in over Alaska and the west coast of the United States. So for a while here we're going to have some cold air the middle of the week. But what's really going to happen, and this has been the story of the winter, it's going to become another transient shot of cold, because as this pattern retrogrades, the polar vortex gets so established on the west coast of the United States that general wave patterns tell us trough, ridge on the east coast. There's no blocking over Greenland, which is what you want to see. You need blocking over Greenland to force lower heights over the east coast. This is a poor pattern for snow. So really, although we're seeing some changes, you can see the pattern really changing dramatically. They're unfavorable, because even if you get further out into the long range, look how there's still negative heights. So we still have a positive NAO, and now we have this monster trough over the west coast of the United States into British Columbia and Alaska, which promotes ridging on the east coast of the United States. As you look towards the surface here, you can see what's going on right now. This is day one. So this is Sunday coming up. Now if you loop forward, you can see moderation, some brief shots of normal to below normal, and then well above normal temperatures as we move forward about a week to 2 weeks in advance. Here's the European model, and this actually gives us a little bit of a better look of the globe in a flat form. So here's the United States, and here's Greenland up here to the north, and the Davis Strait, and you can see the polar vortex where it is right now. And watch the changes as we loop forward. You can see the vortex retrograding to the west and now splitting in two on the Euro. So actually we have one entity now here over Alaska, very poor position for us, and another one back here over Greenland, another very poor position for us. So the end result of what you get is a trough over Alaska and a building southeast ridge over the east coast of the United States above normal temperatures and warm weather. It's not a good pattern for snow. It's not at all. This is probably the worst thing that you could see. I mean, you don't want the polar vortex over Greenland to begin with. But the one thing you also don't want is a vortex over Alaska. And then by the end of the European model, we have both. So as we're moving forward, things aren't looking too hot if you're looking for wintry weather. We did have the GFS. Here we go. Here's the GFS. This is the 850 millibar level. This is a level that we often look at to see how the temperatures in the atmosphere are translating down closer to the surface. So we're closer to the surface here, between 500 millibars in the surface, somewhere halfway between the middle and the surface of the middle of the atmosphere and the surface. So the top image here is the raw anomalies, so departure from normal, and the bottom is the actual 850 millibar temperature. So you can see below normal anomalies here over the next few days, and that's, I mean, it correlates pretty well with what we're experiencing with these very cold temperatures, single digits to teens, some snow around in New Jersey tonight, a light dusting. But look how right behind it we already have positive anomalies over the Midwest, and they're moving to the east. So by Tuesday, 66 hours, we're engrossed in these positive height anomalies, and not surprisingly, temperatures are forecast to rise into the 40s, mid 40s on Tuesday, with a raining system coming through. And that has been the trend. Cold, maybe some snow showers, followed the heavier or more moderate precipitation events occur when the air warms up. Behind this system, another shot of cold air, which, like every other shot of cold air this winter, is in and out pretty rapidly. And then we get the development which we spoke about earlier, which is the polar vortex splitting. You get one big trough over Alaska and another big trough over Greenland, and then the end result is this, a burst of well above normal 850 millibar temperatures by 186 hours to 192 hours, which would place us around next weekend, so it's probably, Saturday, Sunday, Monday. And I mean, these 850 temperatures you look down here is 8 to 12 Celsius. I mean, that could easily correlate to 60-degree temperatures. That's, obviously you don't want to analyze surface temperatures at this range, but it's just a thought as to the degree of warmth which we could be experiencing. Here's the GFS ensembles for that hour. You can see exactly what's going on. We have a big vortex here. The polar vortex has retrograded to western Canada. And I think it's worth stressing here. This can sometimes actually be a good pattern for us to have this trough out here on the west coast. I mean, admittedly, this is a little too far west, but if it was a little further east, this polar vortex would send shortwaves down, but we would need to have some kind of blocking over Greenland, which would allow colder air to infiltrate over eastern Canada. And we could have plenty of shortwaves and overrunning type gradient pattern snowstorms, because you get the gradient between the warm air and the cold air, and the overrunning of precipitation onto the cold dome. But instead, with no blocking to be found in this monster vortex over Alaska, you're going to get a monster southeast ridge in response. And that is what looks like is going to occur. Another look here as we move forward here with the 2-meter temperature anomalies. So this is the surface temperature anomalies, departure from normal. And I mean, when you loop through the GFS, we're talking, this is the first shot, so Sunday, Monday, we're talking, let's see, 15 to 18 degrees above normal. And then through the long range, another shot begins to come in by day 14, which is getting really far out there. But what we're trying to stress here is that a winter pattern does not look like it's going to get established. Here are the 2-meter temperature anomalies in a little bit higher resolution. So here we are right now, moving through Sunday and Monday, and then by Tuesday we get a shot of above normal temperatures, moving through another shot of cold air Thursday and Friday, and then here we go again with this, we looked at this earlier, this burst of warm air and above normal temperatures that we talked about. Here is the North American ensemble forecasting system. You can see they're forecasting on week 2 a 90% chance of above normal temperatures over the eastern United States. It's becoming quite anomalous, and it's hard to say really, that it's going to happen for sure. But based on what we're looking at here in the current pattern, and you loop through all this, And the way that it occurs, we get this big ridge to develop over the Aleutians. It retrogrades to the west. The polar vortex moves back to the west with it, and then we don't have any blocking over Greenland. And it's hard to try and make this publicly understandable. And we're trying to break it down as much as we can. But if you want to get winter weather in this area, you need a good pattern in the Atlantic, which is here, and the Pacific, which is here, which in turn helps the pattern over Canada and over the United States. To have a trough here over the west coast of the United States, when you look at a wavelength and you look, I mean, everyone knows this, you learn high school physics, you learn these wavelengths. You have a trough and you have a ridge to the east of that trough. You know, I mean, we're talking meteorological terms here to the east, but you know, ridge, trough, ridge. When this trough gets so far west, look at the response here. The wavelengths respond and you get a ridge. If you had a trough here over Greenland, a ridge here over Greenland, pardon me, if you had a ridge here over Greenland, that could cause colder air to be established here over eastern Canada, or would cause colder air to be established over eastern Canada, giving us a much better chance of getting snow. But this feature here is very bad for snow. You don't want to see that at all, period. The Pacific is in shambles here towards the end of the run on the GFS, and really on most models. So basically, to sum it up, here we are at the halfway point of meteorological winter. New York City has recorded a trace of snow just recently, not counting the October snowstorm. We haven't seen anything really. Some snow showers gave us a trace of snow, and that's been it. And looking forward into the end of January here, it does not look like the pattern has much to offer as far as snowfall. Now, this is not to say that in one of these cold shots that we talked about these transient in and out cold shots, that we could not see an inch of snow, or 1 to 2 inches of snow, or a light event is basically what we're trying to get at. A light event certainly not out of the cards. But as far as a wintry pattern with cold air and snow, it looks like we're going to make it through January, or at least into the final days of January, before we can even begin to think about transitioning to a pattern which could bring more wintry weather to our area. We're moving now to the end of the GFS run, is what you're seeing here, and you can see the same general idea. Really, that vortex still remains over Alaska, over the same areas, and there's no blocking or ridging over Greenland to be found, which could force this cold air farther south. There are two mechanisms. We could have one block, we have a block here, or we could have a ridge on the west coast, something like this type of figure here, a big ridge here, which could force cold air down to the east coast that way. But we have neither of them. A very unfavorable pattern for snow moving forward. So if you're into this, if you're into the snow being away and not having any impact, then this is good news for you, because we're going to move through the next week or two without any problems, most likely. But we'll keep you guys updated. We will be sure to give you another update, probably in a few days, maybe a week, on the long-range pattern, as we like to do. And we hope you guys are having a great weekend, and we look forward to talking with you during the upcoming week as we move forward through the winter of 2011 and 2012. We'll talk to you guys very soon.